Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to have a look at the update 2.3 Datamine. Now, as usual, I just want to thank Gentlespie and also Zabby for the information that they have created. It's always nice what they do for the community, putting together all of this information so we can get to know what's going on in the files instead of just, instead of just what's on the dev server, which sometimes can be a little bit scuffed. So make sure to check their stuff out. I put some links in the description to the things that they create, and as usual, as I said, very much thank you. Now, let's get into some of the things which weren't on the dev server. The first one is some new tanks. So we did have the Chinese CCKW, that was the quad 50 cal machine, which was about. The ZTZ-99 was definitely there, but obviously it wasn't fully done. There were issues with it. The Panhard EBR 1954, we did a user mission on that, so make sure to check that out. The SDKFC 25121, that's the 15mm AA vehicle. The German TH-800 Bismarck, this is the Type 3P, which is coming for the Operation Winter event, the massive behemoth of a vehicle. And then of course we have the STA-3, the autoloader Japanese vehicle, coming in at 6.7, and then we have this, the SW-ASRAD-R. Now, what is this, you may ask? Well, this is what it is. It's a very interesting vehicle. It's going to be a high-tier vehicle when it comes to the game, and it's pretty much an AA system, and the ASRAD is the part of it which is, of course, the AA. So if you want a little bit of information on it, basically ASRAD stands for the Advanced Short Range Air Defense System, RBS. What it fires is RBS-70 surface-to-air missiles. They're called the bolides, and it generally has around about a max range of 8,000 and max weight of 900 kilos. It's sat on top of course, the Swedish chassis, and what it will come in as is it will come in as a general BR of, let's just see if I can find it. It'll be tier 7, it'll be 10-0, and it'll come after the LV-KV. So this thing, it should have a pretty useful lock-on system at least. The actual system that it uses is it's a laser beam guided missile. It has an infrared search and track for a range of 20 kilometers, and the missile itself is a laser guidance beam riding short range missile. So that's how it's going to work in the game. If you want to see the X-ray, you can see the missile itself. It does have a crew of 4 on it, as you can see in the bottom here, and does seem to have at least 1 reload after you fire the 4 missiles at the top. And here are the missiles themselves. Quite chunky overall. The whole radar is modeled in the X-ray, so therefore it will be able to be defeated, and also it will be part of the physical model. So yeah, it's looking like a pretty cool machine. Not sure if it's fully done yet, which is why I don't think it was on the dev server, but I still think it's a pretty interesting vehicle nonetheless. One which I'm definitely looking forward to when it comes to the game. Now, the next vehicle, which was not on at least the dev server, is the USSR BT7 1937TD, but before that, there is obviously the UK ADAT, the M113A3 variant. This one, I did a user mission on. It's basically the ADAT system without the gun from the American tree on an M113 chassis. So that'll be nice for, top tier Britain. The missiles that it has are incredibly strong. They're very good for anti-tank, they're very good for anti-air, they have proximity attached to them, they're just really nice overall, so that's lovely to see. And then the USSR BT7 1937TD, as we found out recently, TD means twitch drop, so it looks like we're going to have some more twitch drops in the future when it comes to War Thunder. Whether that will be exclusive twitch drops, whether that be in a different way, we'll have to see. What is kind of interesting, though, is the Twitch drop icon for this vehicle is just the winter camouflage, and I don't really understand why it is for the BT7. Maybe it's unfinished, but yeah, the vehicle itself is sat there with a winter one. Maybe it's like a Christmas decoration or something, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's going to be a unique vehicle, which will be the same as the BT7 1937 in the tech tree, which will be nice to see. Then you have new contact / collision physics and damage, and this is to do with the track physics. It is to do with the track physics, so that's, you know, nice to see. Change the projectiles being stuck effects, so once stuff gets stuck in armor, they've changed it a little bit. It looks more realistic now. Tested it a little bit on the dev server, did look really nice. Then also there's a Contact 5, got a new modifier, generic long rod armor quality equals 0.4. And they've also added a new damage type, but only the 2A6 right now gets it, and it's called the generic long rod, and pressure. So pressure is explosive type to pressure params. So it looks like they are developing more some of the high-tech rounds in the game, or high-tech guns in the game, and also matching the armor with it. We'll have to see what effect this has, because obviously the system is definitely not finished yet, so we'll have to see. And then of course the ZTZ-99, as we saw on the dev server, 1200 horsepower engine, 51 tons, and the same weapon as the ZTZ-96. I can definitely see the vehicle getting a little bit more, maybe a better round on it, but overall it's looking like a nice vehicle. The HE shells got the new pressure damage model as well, so there is definitely something being experimented on when it comes to the pressure stuff. The T80U and T80B's gear ratios have been changed. So have all of the top tier vehicles, like the STRV 103, the 122s, the Leo 2s, Leclercs, and M1A2s. They've also been changed. It seems like, as he says, it feels more responsive. It basically, at least to me, it seems like the driver is better at gear shifting. That's basically the way it seems to work. The other thing as well is they've changed the Type 90's gun elevation speed from 4 degrees per second to 10. That is a large buff for that machine. The Type 90's gun elevation was absolutely terrible without the modification, and even afterwards it was pretty bad. So that was one of the main issues of getting the gun on the target. Now that's been made easier, which is really nice. So the next part is obviously new ships. You know, we have the German battlecruiser, the Von der Tann, which we had a look at, the Zara class, the Polar, the sister ship of the Zara as a premium. It's quite a nice machine. You know, it's very similar, if not exactly the same as his sister ship, which is in the tree. The JP Kusentai 13 1942. This is the K version that we had a look at in the user mission. This is the Operation Winter vehicle that is available, just a worse version that is already in the game. Then you've got the Invincible, of course, but it's not so invincible, is it? The Baltimore class, and then of course the MPK project, or PR 12412. They've changed also ship AA accuracies, and by change them, I mean they've buffed them quite a lot. It seems like the guns are way more accurate, at least from my little testing. They're able to just hit targets very easily from even very far away. And with the Baltimore class coming in, which is basically just made of 20s and 40s, I'll be incredibly surprised if that thing is not just a complete anti-air monster. Because it has so many AA guns on it, it is definitely a late war heavy cruiser for the Americans. And with the large caliber guns it has, with the secondaries it has, I definitely think it'll be very useful. Definitely want to watch out for when it comes to the game in Operation Winter. Then, in air changes, you can now salvo fire your secondary weapon series. This is awesome, of course. More onus on the player to be able to control their own systems is always positive, so that's really nice to see. And then they added a bunch of new plane DMs. So obviously, first of all, we have the helicopters, so the A109, the 129 as well. Then also the A7D, the Corsair 2. This is the starter helicopter for Italy here. The Buccaneer, which we had a look at, all the F-84Fs. By the way, I think they're going to reduce the BR of the F-84Fs. I don't think they're 8.7 material. There's also talk of the F-84F being kind of in the... would you class it as wrong place, I suppose, in the American tech tree? It would make a little bit more sense going before the Sabre, but we'll see what they decide to do. And then we have some other additions, such as the MiG-21 PFM and also the RO-57. We had a look at the PBM-1 on the dev server and the Saabs and also the V-11G. The V-11G is actually just called the V-11 in the game. I don't know why they've decided that it's going to be that in the files and something different out on the other side. So let's have a look at the MiG-21 just to show you the PFM, because the PFM is a pretty interesting vehicle. It's going to be the top tier event vehicle for Operation Winter. It's one for all the marbles, and it does actually have access to some really nice stuff on it. The MiG-21 PFM, when it comes to the game, it is going to be a vehicle which is rank 6, battle rating 10.0, and also it's an F-13 FM-wise with a tiny bit less lift with full flaps and a bit more thrust. It's a little bit heavier, and the oil and water temperatures differ. So it's very similar in the flight characteristics to an F-13, but the loadouts are what are kind of scary on it. So remember, this thing still has, it has like a gun pod, which is attached to it. It's one of those gun pods, which even though it's a gun pod, I don't think you'll be able to remove it. It will just be there, and it's going to obviously, run with all your other loadouts. So it's 223s, so that'll be nice to have. The other thing about the weaponry that is involved on this thing, so you can either bring 32 S5Ks, 64 S5Ks, 2 S24s, 2 250s, 2 500s, and then 2 of the KH-66s, which are the earlier version of the missiles that you find on the Yak-38, the AGMs. So they will be mouse-guided, which will be great for them. It can also carry 2 R3Ss or 2 R13Ms, 2 R60s, or 4 R60s. So this will have a definite decent amount of secondary weapons on it. It won't be as good as some of the other machines that are in the game around the BR, but at 10.0 that's pretty solid for this machine. It's definitely something to look out for when it comes to this MiG-13. And at the same time, even if you grind this out, you can always sell it later on the market if you're not interested in keeping it. But I think personally the PFM is just looking really nice and definitely something I'm looking forward to. I just wish, that there wasn't top tier event vehicles, but I suppose this is the world we live in with stuff like the Macarva and so on. The next vehicle is the RO. That we talked about before, the 57, and it's also called the RO-57 Quadriarma. And basically what Quadriarma means is quad armament. And the reason why it's called that is because it has access in the nose to 2 12.7s and I believe 2 20mm. So this thing will have a good amount of firepower, which is mounted all in the center. This means that convergence won't be too much of an issue, and getting guns on target shouldn't be too much of an issue, since they'll just be able to shoot forward. The other thing is it does have several bomb racks, so you have one here on the wing. You have a bomb lobber in the center, which is kind of interesting, and then also another one over here for the machine. So this is another twin-engine fighter for the Italians, which is looking really nice. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, it's going to be rank 2, 2.7. This one is a premium, whereas the PFM, the MiG-21, is not a premium. It's just an event vehicle, so this will have premium bonuses attached to it. Its loadouts are 2 50-kilo bombs, or 2 100-kilo bombs, 2 160-kilo bombs, or two 250s plus two 100s, or two 250s plus two 160s, or one 500 kilo bomb. So that bomb lobber in the center is definitely for that 500. And the only thing I will say about this, the cockpit looks really weird on this aircraft. Like, it's a box shape. It's more similar to like the BF-109 cockpit than anything else. And it also has holes in the back. I don't know if it's supposed to have holes in the back, but yeah, it's completely open when you sit back here to the elements. I mean, I know there's a lot of stories how the Italian pilots really liked open cockpits, but this one just seems a little bit odd. It just seems like it's a bit misshapen and doesn't actually fit the model. But maybe that's how it was. It just, it just looks kind of funny to me. But yeah, this is the RO-57 Quadriarma, which is pretty awesome. And let's just go back to the thing. And they've added a new file, hit visualization. I'm sure that will be something attached to when you get physically hit by ammunition from another aircraft. They'll make it look so it's a lot more appealing. They've changed a bunch of the A4B's FM and also the BB1's FM. They've also changed the SU2's FM. The basic changes that I've seen when it comes to these is they've made them way more maneuverable, but they've lost a little bit of speed. So their elevator and their rudder and stuff is a lot more responsive, but they can't go as fast. So that will kind of hurt them. Well, the BB1 and the SU2's case. This will kind of hurt them, unfortunately, but I think overall, it should be not too bad. It should be okay. Then they've also changed the étendards flats and also the engine parameters on all of the MiG-21s, apart from the BIS, so we'll have to see how that affects it. They've changed the Saab's 105's engine to altitude performance. They made it a little bit better. The other thing as well is the 105 is not as maneuverable as the SK-60 when it comes to the air. It seems to be a little bit heavier, but it has the weapons to accommodate. That thing is not an 8.0 vehicle. Especially the premium one. The premium one is pay to win, and it is not a 8.0 vehicle. They completely changed the SU2's FM, so similar to the BB1 changes. They gave the MiG-21 BIS 500 kilos, so maybe you can use that in ground forces, and they also changed the R60's prop nav guidance slightly. They basically made it better. So there's a little bit of a buff to the R60's after the quite large nerf last update, where they got rid of a lot of the explosive mass of the R60's and the proximity. And then the sensors, obviously we have the ASRAD search sensor. This is the radar for the ASRAD. I'm guessing the M113 ADATS is just using the radar system from the US ADATS. It would make sense. They also added a new camera, commander view, which I'm hoping this is what they were talking about before, where they said that they're redoing a lot of the commander stuff when it comes to how how your binos work in the game. That would be pretty cool. I didn't really see any of it on the dev server. Didn't really check either, so that's kind of my fault. The LWS got a warning message and sound, so enjoy your blink, 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 and some of these may or may not be inside the dev server, and assume the tech tree otherwise. And that is all of the changes when it comes to the Datamine. There is a few more things though, along with stuff like the decals, along with things that are made like that for War Thunder. There is a bunch of decorations which are sat in the files for the Operation Winter event. The first one is this. This is obviously the German ammunition World War II big. Then you've got the IOTV body armor big, the US CRAS land big, then also the USSR ammunition World War II big with the very large helmets, and the USSR body armor 6B43 big. So you do have all of these parts. They look very similar. They look very similar to what we may have seen before. And it may actually be the ones from before. They just look incredibly similar to them, or maybe just for different countries and labeled differently. There's also a new decal. The new decal is called "You Are Awesome," and it's unlocked by a code. So make sure to check out in the next few days the social media of War Thunder, whether it be the Twitter, the Facebook, the the VK, anything like that. I'm sure that it will be. Available in it. And then there's also a bunch of unused loadouts for a bunch of vehicles, so there might be hope for Italian helicopters. There might be hope for them in the end. The A129 has a bunch of unused loadouts, so it has 4 AGM-114Bs or 8 AGM-114Bs, 4 Mistrals, 4 Stingers, or 28 FFR Mark IVs, or 76 of them, and then of course the 4 BGM-71 tows or the 8 BGM-71 tows. So it might start using these. We'll have to see how it does, and then maybe it gets them. The F-84F also has a loadout that it's not using, the 42 2.75-inch FFR Mark IVs, so a bunch of rockets basically. The Saab 105G has a 2 AIM-9B loadout, and so does the premium version, but I don't know why you would use that over the other ones which are available. They've also made the Firestreaks better. The Firestreaks are now up to a 15G Max G load, which is great to see, and they've also changed AIM-9Ds and AIM-9Gs, where they've increased the drag coefficients, they've increased the force of, they've decreased the force of the booster, but they've increased the burn time by 1.5 seconds. So we'll have to see what that actually does to them. Hopefully it makes them a little bit better to see what's going on. The other last little change as well is they've done a few language changes, which is pretty nice, and also they've added some new sets of weaponry, or new sets of modifications, I should say. So you've got the GAU 13A belts and a new gun. Obviously that's for the A7D, AK-630 universal belts. You've got 127mm shells as a new modification for the US, so that's naval, and then 203mm AP, 356mm shells, and then you've got the bolide upgrade. That is obviously for the ASRAD system, so I'm guessing it will just give it a better missile. Then you've got the MiG-21 KH-66, obviously that's the new AGM for the new gift vehicle for Operation Winter, the MiG-21, the PFM, then RP3 Mark 12s, so hopefully there'll be, more modern versions of RP3s. The Matra 7 also is about, the GPU 5A, and also German 15mm belts, and US FFAR ALUXA. XCA. So there's a bunch of really cool stuff going on. There's a ton of new camouflages as well. The Quadrima gets a pretty cool camo, but obviously that will be part of the event, and I believe the MiG-21 also will get a camo, so we'll have to see how that all goes. But yeah, that is the Datamine for the most recent Update 2.3 dev server. Once again, thank you to GentleSpee and thank you to Zabby for the work that they do for this community. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Elove Goat, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez B. Young, and also Hans Fagellen, Sebastian Mizon, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.